So this next update really is just about more so the service delivery issues that we're seeing with water and load shedding here in South Africa, meaning that there are water cuts and rolling blackouts at the same time, and they're just happening everywhere. For as many as like some districts were having it for about a whole month, meaning that there was like people are just getting out in their numbers and protesting that, listen, they haven't had water or water running from the taps for like 3 weeks at a time. And especially that was the story out in Westbury a few weeks ago. And we've seen that people are just getting more and more agitated, especially with this current government and this government structure that we're seeing. And it's becoming quite a thing. And I also literally had a, prolonged sort of cable theft where what used to happen is the fact that I live in a DA or Democratic Alliance run area, whereas the councillor, where we used to have quite a good one, would actually ensure that, first of all, if there was a cable theft in the area, he would go himself to go check it out and investigate, and then come back and show people that, hang on, there's nothing happening over here, and I don't see this work that they're doing. And then what he'd then do is that he'd actually, and what we had happened in the past, was to take this current municipality to court over these load shedding issues. Because the way it works is that if you live in an area that is not in huge debt to the municipality, then it means that legally they're not supposed to be load shedding in your area. It's just as simple as that. So load shedding really is about justifiable that if a certain area owes a whole lot of money, or a certain suburb or something owes a whole lot of money to the town council or the municipality, that's when they can load shed, or meaning that they can actually have scheduled rolling blackouts or power cuts at a certain time. So this particular time, and we've seen with the government of national unity, the sort of modus operandi has now changed, where the Democratic Alliance councillor in the area is on board with this whole nonsense, because the updates were not forthcoming and people were getting upset. One, even a particular neighbor of ours was actually a bit, distressed about the fact that with the 48-hour power cut, lost his fish because the oxygen ran out in his fish tank at the time, and the electricity was needed to order to pump more oxygen into the fish tank itself. So, yeah, unfortunately, people suffered a little bit of damage and all that. But the worst was when I had my sister, who had a 6-day power cut. 6 days, which is rather ridiculous. So we're seeing that the service delivery is getting more and more pathetic in the whole area. Now, we've also noticed at the same time, there was Helen Ziller, who is still saying, this GNU is such a marvelous idea, meaning that in fact, what she actually pretty much lamented was the Democratic Alliance solely acting with the ANC, and the other GNU members not being in a part of it, the other smaller parties, would make it more conducive towards a working relationship if it was just the Democratic Alliance as the biggest opposition and the African National Congress and them just solely governing. So it's no coincidence that her running for mayor of Johannesburg all of a sudden has a lot to do with the whole service delivery just not being up to scratch, or just being quite abhorrent at this particular moment in time, because it's absolutely ridiculous. And we're just going to see a lot of this happening. And eventually, which I explain about the whole nature of the prophecies, that people are just going to start getting more and more angst, and they're going to be driving out these politicians by themselves. So this is something that is ramping up, and it is actually forming. And we need to be really on the mark and need to look at this in just in closer detail and keeping our fingers on the pulse, because it's going to be a wild, wild ride. The next update coming soon.